I think one more character that came from a real life person, and this is something I discovered over time, not when I'd seen the movie, is DevD, and apparently that's you.
I was like, what?
Obsessive in love, experimenting with drugs, and a modern Devdas in your own right, at least for the screen. Would that be correct?
Well, the reason why I wanted to contemporize the book was exactly that. I read the book and I was like, why do they make such a big deal out of this guy? He's a more chauvinistic character, and then there's such a it's such a male patriarchal view of a man and women relationship, where the women are just fawning over him. No matter what he does, he can never be wrong.
It's a fantasy, right? And it's coming from the 1800s.
Like, there's something wrong here. So I was like, let's empower the women. Let's call out his chauvinism. Let me see if I can still get him empathy. As far as the alcohol, I mean, of course, he's an alcoholic in that. And I was like, I grew up in an environment now in the modern age where drugs and alcohol both, it's all available. So, you know, this is a tale that can be said even today. Chauvinism exists even today. Patriarchy exists even today. But what didn't exist back then was giving women a much stronger role. And my Chanda character was far stronger than what eventually got made into the movie, because she was an East European pole dancing escort who's fine the way she was. She was making great money and she's traveling the world. She takes pity on him, but she doesn't get as vulnerable as he does, because it was important for me for having both the women not playing to his bullshit. But obviously it worked for Anurag, where she was as vulnerable as he was, and she was a victim too. For me, only he was the only victim. The women only grew stronger from
Did you know someone like that?
The escort? Did I know someone like that? I'm not going to tell you.
I can still ask, right?
You can ask. I know all sorts of people, let's just put it that way. Sure, I know.
Including yourself?
Yeah, I know a few escorts in my life. Chances.
We've obviously touched upon Anurag Kashyap's film. That's DevD, huge commercial success. I hear that term, but I've never seen anyone dance.
Ironically, like, even though I said we should move beyond the song and dance, every idea I've ever come up with has song and dance. So DevD, for example.
Right, it was a musical.
Yeah, to go from song to song to song. You know what I mean?
Like 18 songs, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, like there's a background score that almost tells the story. So, and then one other idea I wrote also had music in it. Another one I'm thinking about also has song and dance in it. So that's
song and dance is not the issue, right?
So I mean, I'm saying that the issue is that it's only that.
Right.
But it has to have it. It's like, there's no problem having it, but can we have a little variety, you know? There should be that there's song and dance films and there's ones that don't have song and dance. Like, why can't we have that?
You know, the one thing that we all remember when we think of DevD, for instance, is emotional Atyachaar. It's a line, it's these two words that you came up with. Do you remember how you came up with those two words? Because they sort of define that film in a real sense.
Yeah, there's a story behind it. Because that song, na, Pardesi, the song, there's a line called Ipke Hoge Agge Yaar. So there's a line in the song. So he made me hear that song. I heard it like Ipke Hoge Atyachar. Agge Yaar sounded like Atyachar to me. So Atyachar stayed in my head. And I was trying to figure out a song, and Atyachar stayed in my head. So, and I was in that phase where I was telling Amit Trivedi that Paella, by God, add that by God to it. So I asked him to do that. So that Agge Yaar, and then I remember that I heard it as Atyachar, and he told me it's Agge Yaar, but Atyachar was playing in my head, and I was lying in bed, and suddenly emotional Atyachar just occurred to me. It was 11 p.m. And I called up Amit. I said, just write down this word, emotional Atyachar. He says, what? I said, just write it down. I want a song around it. I'll tell you what. Just write it down. And he wrote emotional Atyachar. And I said, and then from emotional Atyachar, I went back to my memory of Kamal Swaroop's Om Darbadar, where the song was Meri Jaan A, Meri Jaan B, Meri Jaan C. And that song influenced me so much that earlier I wanted to use that brass band element in Gulal, which I did not end up using, which we only used a little bit on Piyush Mishra. He's always dressed like a bandmaster. And there's some elements that you have always wanted to use because it impacted you. Also underground, Amir Kusturika's underground, because he constantly plays with the band. And that whole opening sequence, I wanted to use that. So it started with using this band element, and we had started shooting. So all those things I said band ka record karna, emotional Atyachar gana hai. Baki you figure it out. Baki it was Amitav and Amit. I did not do more than that. I said brass band, emotional Atyachar.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.